Optimus Prime has had over 40 years of redesigns, reimaginings, and reworks, and some of them are genuinely incredible, but some of them are not. Today, I'm ranking every major Optimus Prime design from worst to best, purely on visual design, no nostalgia protection, no favoritism, and the one sitting at the very bottom might surprise you. Earthspark. Let me be clear, this design isn't bad, it's just the least impressive version of Optimus Prime ever put on screen, and I can prove it. Earthspark premiered in November 2022 on Paramount Plus, with Alan Tudyk voicing the Autobot leader. And look, the show is fine for what it is. It's a kids show, but here's the thing, when you line this Optimus up against literally every other version on this list, he looks like he got demoted, and technically, he did. The Earthspark toy dropped Optimus down to Deluxe class. That's a meaningful downgrade from the Voyager class he's historically been sold at. In Transformers toy lines, size literally communicates importance. They made the leader of the Autobots smaller. That tells you everything about the design philosophy here. The colors are there. Red and blue, sure. But they're applied flat and clean in a way that strips out all the mechanical complexity that gives other versions their visual weight. The proportions are streamlined and compact, which reads as approachable rather than commanding. For a character whose entire identity is being the leader, that's a problem. The simplified transformation mechanics were a deliberate choice for younger audiences, and that's completely fine, but it makes him look less impressive next to every single other entry on this list. He gets the basics right, he just doesn't do anything beyond that. But if you think starting at the bottom means things stay mild, wait until you see what the Unicron trilogy did to this character. Unicron trilogy. Armada Optimus Prime has an identity crisis, and the design proves it. When Transformers Armada debuted on August 23, 2002, on Cartoon Network's Toonami block, it was supposed to be a fresh start. The first major Hasbro and Takara co-production, an entirely new continuity with zero G1 connections. A clean slate. But here's the thing, in the first 2 episodes, his pre-Earth form literally resembles the original 1984 design. Even a brand new continuity couldn't fully escape G1's gravity. Once he scans an Earth vehicle, the base design is angular, competent, and completely forgettable. It checks every box without leaving an impression. Nothing about it screams leader of the Autobots. His tech specs max him out at 10 across nearly every stat category, matching Megatron exactly. On paper, he's a beast. The design just doesn't sell that. And then there's the Powerlinks color upgrade, which made him look like a mashup of Nemesis Prime and Optimus Primal. That's either cool or deeply confusing depending on how you feel about a design borrowing its visual identity from 2 completely different characters. When your upgraded form needs to reference other primes to look interesting, your base design has a problem. His super modes tell the same story. Combining with Jetfire or Overload, actually visually striking, but that's the point. His most compelling moments require other characters to carry the aesthetic. That's not confidence. That's compensation. But if you think a borrowed identity is bad, wait until you see the prime that went all in on being something completely different. Robots in Disguise, 2001. Optimus Prime transforms into a fire truck in this series, and before you dismiss that as some kind of betrayal, hear me out, because this might be one of the smartest design decisions in the entire franchise. Originally airing in Japan as Car Robots before hitting the US in 2001, Robots in Disguise ran for 39 episodes and served as the bridge between the Beast Machines era and the return to vehicle-based Autobots. But the real conversation starter is that alt mode, a fire truck, not a semi, not a military vehicle, a fire truck. Here's the thing, a fire truck is literally a rescue vehicle. It exists to protect people. That maps directly onto everything Optimus Prime is supposed to represent, better than a long-haul semi ever did. The character's entire identity is built around sacrifice and protection, and this design actually leans into that instead of just defaulting to big truck. Known as Fire Convoy in Japan, the engineering on this figure borrowed heavily from Beast Wars toy line mechanics, giving him noticeably better articulation than most animated figures of that era. The super mode, where the base robot combines with the remaining truck components, is one of the cleanest power-up executions in the franchise. It escalates visually without becoming a cluttered mess, which is harder to pull off than it sounds. The colors are vibrant reds and blues with distinctive sculpting that reads as unmistakably Optimus while still feeling like a genuine reimagining. Collectors consistently cite this as one of their favorite Optimus Prime designs ever made, and that's rare. Genuine innovation without losing the character is something most versions don't even attempt, let alone achieve. But if you think a fire truck Optimus is a bold, creative swing, wait until you see what they did with his origin story. Transformers 1. Here's the thing about Transformers 1. It does something that no other Optimus Prime design has ever attempted. It makes you wait for it. Released in 2024 as the first fully CG animated Transformers film set entirely on Cybertron, the movie takes place before anyone had vehicle alt modes, before the Autobot Decepticon war, before any of it. Chris Hemsworth voices Orion Pax, the young pre-Prime Cybertronian who hasn't earned the title yet, and the design reflects exactly that. No pointed Shogun ears, no battle mask, no imposing commander silhouette. He's intentionally incomplete, and that's not a flaw. That's the entire point. The film uses design as a narrative device. Visual markers that fans associate with Optimus Prime are earned across the runtime rather than handed out in frame 1. Multiple design phases track Orion's character development throughout the movie. The closer he gets to becoming Prime, the more his silhouette starts resembling what you recognize. It's genuinely sophisticated storytelling, using the character's appearance as a visual arc that mirrors his internal transformation. The less hyper-realistic animation style actually helps here. It allows for more expressive, emotional visual storytelling than photorealistic VFX ever could. Subtle design shifts carry weight because the style supports nuance over spectacle. But here's where it gets complicated. The film opened to only $24.6 million domestically. Despite critical praise, audiences didn't fully connect. And that raises a fair question. Can an intentionally incomplete Optimus Prime design carry a theatrical release? Conceptually brilliant doesn't always translate to commercially compelling. Sometimes people just want to see the truck. But if you think an unfinished Prime is a tough sell, wait until you see what Rise of the Beasts did with a fully formed one. Rise of the Beasts. Most live-action Transformers designs get one job. This one had 3, and somehow it nailed all of them. Rise of the Beasts dropped in 2023 as the 7th live-action Transformers film directed by Stephen Caple Jr. It functioned as both a soft sequel to Bumblebee and a narrative prequel to the 2007 Bay film, which meant Optimus Prime's design had to serve competing masters. It needed to match the 2007 aesthetic for continuity purposes, fit the new grounded direction Bumblebee established, and allow for convincing facial performance during emotional scenes. That's not a design brief, that's a tightrope. Lead VFX artist Rasul Edgy modeled the head, face, and battle mask, and the result is genuinely inventive. The battle mask uses a Centurion open design directly inspired by Roman helmet aesthetics. Unlike every previous live-action version, the mask doesn't fully retract into the head. Instead, it stores on the sides of the cheeks, creating a mechanically distinctive silhouette that feels both ancient and futuristic at the same time. But here's where it gets impressive. Edgy engineered a fully functional chin piece mechanism for when the mask closes, a moving part that pushes the chin backward to accommodate the faceplate. You will never see this detail in the final film. It's completely invisible to audiences, but the VFX team designed it anyway because modern Transformers design treats theoretical mechanical plausibility as non-negotiable. Every piece has to go somewhere. The face proportions are wider and more robust than the narrower 2007 design, incorporating Bumblebee's design language to visually bridge both continuities. It's refinement rather than reinvention. And threading that needle between Bumblebee's grounded, character-focused aesthetic and Bayverse mechanical spectacle is significantly harder than it sounds. But if you think bridging two design philosophies is difficult, wait until you see the version that started the entire live-action conversation, Bayverse. The 2007 Optimus Prime has been described as the most physically imposing version of the character ever created. Broad shoulders, towering frame, a silhouette that reads as heroic from literally any angle. And that wasn't an accident. Michael Bay believed G1 designs would look ridiculous in live action, so he went in the complete opposite direction, building every character from hyper-detailed internal mechanical logic outward. The result was something nobody had ever seen before. Here's the thing, that Peterbilt truck with flames painted across the body. It tells you everything about this version of the character before he even transforms. This isn't your Saturday morning cartoon leader. This is a warrior. The vehicle mode alone communicates aggressive, battle-hardened identity in a way no previous Optimus design had attempted, and the core design stayed remarkably consistent across 5 films from 2007 to 2017. The changes were incremental. Additional weaponry and battle damage got layered in as the series progressed. A new Knight-inspired redesign showed up in Age of Extinction, but the foundational aesthetic, the one that sold the character to a global audience of people who had never watched a single episode of Transformers in their lives, that stayed locked in. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The controversy around Bay vs. Optimus is real, but it's mostly about characterization. The increasingly violent, emotionally unstable portrayal. The give me your face energy. That's a writing and directing problem, not a design problem. The actual mechanical design is genuinely innovative. It sold robot believability to a mass audience in a way nobody thought was possible. The transformation sequences got progressively more complex across the sequels, sure, but that original 2007 design thinking remains the single most influential live-action Transformers aesthetic ever created. It defined what these films looked like for an entire generation. But if you think Bay's mechanical complexity was the final word on live-action Optimus, the very next film proved there was another way entirely. Bumblebee, Travis Knight looked at what Michael Bay built over 5 films and said, no, not subtly, not diplomatically. He fundamentally rejected the design philosophy that had dominated live-action Transformers for over a decade. Bay believed G1 designs would look ridiculous in live action. Knight believed the exact opposite. One of them was proven right, and it wasn't Bay. Released in December 2018, Bumblebee was set deliberately in the 1980s, the decade that birthed the original cartoon Knight grew up loving. And his design approach reflected that reverence. Instead of rebuilding Optimus Prime from scratch using 10,000 moving parts, Knight's team took the cartoon design and layered realistic mechanical detail on top of it. The result is almost uncanny. You look at this Optimus and immediately recognize the G1 character, but he feels physically real, like he could actually exist. No alien knife collection glued to a truck. Just a clean, heroic Autobot leader who looks like he walked out of your childhood and into a movie theater. Here's where it gets interesting though. 2 distinct designs exist in this film. There's a Cybertron form during the opening battle, and an Earth form after vehicle scanning. The Earth form uses a European truck silhouette rather than Bay's American Peterbilt, which created a genuine continuity headache that fans still debate. But the real story is what this design communicates. Where Bay's Optimus conveyed power through aggressive complexity, Knight's version conveys wisdom and authority through proportional stability and classical heroic posture. The transformations are simpler too, deliberately so. Visual clarity over mechanical spectacle, character over chaos. And here's the ultimate proof this design worked. When Rise of the Beast went into production, the team deliberately built on Bumblebee's design language rather than reverting to Bay's. That's the strongest endorsement any design can receive. The next film didn't replace it. They kept building. But if you think live action nailed the perfect Optimus, wait until you see what a certain animated series pulled off with even fewer polygons. Transformers Prime. Most Optimus Prime designs are judged by how cool they look. This one should be judged by how much it makes you feel. Transformers Prime premiered in 2010 on Hub Network, ran 3 seasons plus a TV movie, and quietly became one of the most consistently praised animated Transformers series ever made. A huge reason for that is the design work. The team behind Prime did something nobody had successfully pulled off before. They took the stylized proportions of Transformers, animated, blended them with the mechanical complexity of the live-action films, and landed in a middle ground that felt entirely new. Not too simplified, not overwhelmingly detailed. Just right. The aesthetic leans into this 50s Art Deco influence with streamlined curves and a sense of advanced sophistication that the Bayverse never even attempted. Where Bay's Optimus was a walking junkyard of moving parts, Prime's Optimus was elegant. Clean lines, purposeful shapes. Every panel looked like it belonged there. But here's where it gets special. The face. This design could act. The proportions and lighting adjustments allowed for genuine emotional performance in ways no previous Optimus had achieved. You could see grief on this face. You could see doubt when the show explored Optimus's complicated history with Megatron, or when he carried the weight of every Autobot he'd lost. The design didn't just support those moments, it elevated them. This is where Optimus Prime stopped being a cool robot and started being a real character, and the design proved it could handle everything the writers threw at it. Warrior intensity during combat, quiet wisdom while mentoring the kids, and genuine devastating grief in Predacons Rising when Optimus sacrifices himself to restore Cybertron. That moment works because the design had spent 3 seasons earning the emotional vocabulary to sell it. Even the Beast Hunters upgrade nailed it. The new armor gave visual form to Optimus's spiritual and military evolution without abandoning any of his core identity markers. It's one of the cleanest examples in the entire franchise of design communicating character growth. But if you think emotional range is what puts a design over the top, wait until you see the one that rewrote the rules of what Optimus Prime could even be. Transformers Animated. This is the Optimus Prime that nobody expected to work, and that's exactly why it works so well. Transformers Animated debuted on Cartoon Network on December 26, 2007, ran for 3 seasons, and was art directed by Derek J. Wyatt, whose aesthetic choices ended up influencing the broader franchise's visual evolution well beyond the show's run. The style was anime-influenced, exaggerated, and completely unlike anything Transformers had done before, and Optimus Prime's design leaned all the way into that. His vehicle mode is a half-track Cybertronian truck loosely inspired by the Mitsubishi Fuso hybrid concept, not a traditional semi-truck. That alone tells you this version is doing something different, and the robot mode follows through on that promise. The proportions don't scream military aggression or ancient warrior king. They communicate competent professionalism, measured wisdom, which makes perfect sense, because this Optimus doesn't start the series leading an army. He's running a repair facility. The design reflects exactly where he is in his arc, not where he'll end up. Here's where it gets interesting. The head design features small, twin cylinder-shaped protrusions connected to antennae, directly inspired by the 2007 Bay film, but filtered through a completely different aesthetic sensibility. On paper, that shouldn't work alongside anime-influenced proportions, but it does. Beautifully, the retractable mouthplate, a feature that would go on to influence later designs across the franchise, gives him a visual toggle between approachable leader and combat-ready warrior, and his battle axe, configurable in single or double-bladed modes, became an instantly recognizable signature weapon. But here's the thing nobody talks about. The toy engineering for this figure was genuinely exceptional. Sophisticated ball joint and universal hinge implementation delivered articulation that made those simplified proportions feel physically capable. The figure could do more than it looked like it should be able to. That's the entire philosophy of animated Optimus in a nutshell. Underestimate him at your own risk, because the real genius of this design is that it understood something most versions don't. Optimus Prime's visual authority should be earned, not assumed. The arc from repair crew supervisor to respected leader is built into the design from the very first frame. You can see where he starts. You can see where he's going, and the design carries that journey without changing a single detail. But if Animated earned its place by reimagining everything, the next design earned its place by inventing everything. The one that started it all, Generation 1. Here's a fun fact that most people don't know. The most iconic Transformers character in history is technically a repurposed Japanese import. Optimus Prime started life in 1983 as a Diaclone toy called Battle Convoy before Hasbro brought it overseas in 1984, slapped a new name on it, and accidentally created a cultural icon that would define an entire franchise for the next 4 decades. And the original figure wasn't just a truck that turned into a robot. It came in 3 modules, Optimus Prime himself as the command brain, Roller the scout car, and the Autobot headquarters command deck. Here's the detail that still blows my mind. Injury to one module was felt by the others. From day one, vulnerability and interconnection were built directly into the character's DNA. That's not just toy design, that's storytelling through engineering. The vehicle mode was a Freightliner cab-over semi-truck with metallic red and blue paint, chrome details, rubber wheels on all 6 positions, and extensive sticker detailing that made the thing feel premium even by 1984 standards. 40 years later, that silhouette is still immediately recognizable to people who have never touched a Transformers toy in their life. That's how powerful the design is. But here's what really sets G1 apart. The robot mode achieved articulation at the foot, knee, thigh, shoulder, elbow, and wrist, all while maintaining a convincing truck mode and a transformation that actually made mechanical sense. Some analysts argue that specific balance of functional vehicle, impressive robot, and meaningful articulation hasn't been truly matched since. In 1984. Let that sink in, and if you think this is just nostalgia talking, consider this. In 2024, 40 years after the original release, Hasbro put out a Retro G1 Optimus Prime with a newly commissioned trailer designed specifically for that figure. They didn't do that for charity. They did it because the design still moves units, still earns attention, still matters commercially in a market flooded with newer, flashier options. Every single design on this list exists in conversation with G1. Some try to honor it, some try to escape it, some try to synthesize it with something new, but none of them ignore it. That's what makes a design truly iconic. Not that it's the best engineered or the most visually complex, but that 40 years of designers, artists, and filmmakers still can't stop thinking about it. They all start here. They always come back here. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.